So tonight is the third night that we will get an update on the budget for 2019-2020. And so I'd like to turn it over to Vicki.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight you'll be getting the overview again of the tax cap calculation and hearing from the special ed department and the finance department. One agenda item for tonight's benefits overview was slated to be discussed tonight. I'm asking to defer this until the next meeting in March. We get additional information from Excellus, so I wanted to give you as much as I can, so a little more time on that. Thank you. So here is the tax cap calculation you've seen to date so far. No changes have been made at this point. Again, a reminder of the tax-based growth factor being 1.1288%, and our inflation factor is 2% again this year. We have 1.1 million currently in our capital exclusions, which is our capital obligations offset by any anticipated on-its obligations. So currently we're at a little over $3 million increase in the tax levy as allowed by law, or a little over 8%. Here's a recap of the departments we've seen to date, and a summary of the budget considerations presented thus far. Any questions or comments on the prior departments at this point? Okay. So with those new considerations, again, no fund balance, no increase to the tax levy, no use of reserves allocated at this point. You have a budget gap of $5.7 million. So then I'll turn over to Kelly Squires.
Okay, so for the special student services special education department overview, the first page is a summary of the different lines within our budget. The first being salaries, which will see an increase from 2018-19 to 2019-20 due to an increase in contractual obligations for our salaries. The next two lines, equipment and contractual conference, you'll see an increase in equipment from $15,000 to $27,500, and then conversely a decrease in the contractual and conferences, and that is to change money from one equipment code to the other due to an ongoing we've been working with the special education department teachers to increase their access to assistive technology for students in the classrooms. So the equipment piece has to do with computer purchases to support assistive technology and differentiation within those classrooms. So we changed money between those two codes to reflect that. The supply will also see an increase in that line. That is due to a realignment from the general budget to reflect allocations for purchases for specific staff within our department. So, for example, occupational or physical therapy, their testing supplies are now directly related to their areas that they service for our students. The tuition is the same from both last year to this year. And our BOCES budget has increased, and that is due to the proposed amount of students that we have within our current system that are within BOCES programming, and then what we will reflect as programming for them for next year. Any questions? No? Okay, so the positions, as they're broken down in our department, there are increases again in every line that's due to the contractual obligations for salary, and you'll note an increase in two lines in particular. One being the teaching assistants. We had 53.75, and now we have increased to 57.5, and that is due to an addition of 4 one-on-one teaching assistants for the needs of the students in various classrooms. The other increase was an increase of staff with school nurses, and that again is because we have one student in particular that is a one-on-one nurse for medical those are the two staff increases in the FTEs. Any questions on that? Okay, the two budget considerations from student services. One being the BOCES transition service, which would be a 0.6 person within our district. You'll see the amount of the increase for that position is $40,518. The rationale behind that is transition services for students that are in that secondary level are meant to facilitate a student's progression from high school services and high school to post-secondary activities. And there are, for our kids that are more involved, needs that we feel that position could help our students have greater success with transition after high school, whether that be to the job, supported employment, or college. The second consideration is for 504 plan district support. And that is for greater consistency for students across the district. If you'll remember, historically, we created the two CSE positions about 10 years ago, really to look at having consistency for our students both in programming and recommendations as they change, well, first from elementary, and then they change to the intermediate, middle, and high school, so that we really give them the best opportunity to have supports that are consistent based on what their needs are. And so we are looking at this now in relation to the Title IV plans. So as a new director, I'm evaluating what the practices are, and we're looking for opportunities for new ways to better support our students. And this is a piece that we've talked about for a number of years in administrative council as well as a piece to consider.
So you have a question mark for the cost implication. In the future, will there be a number there? I mean, right now you're not sure what that number is, or somebody's doing this gratis.
So we said for years, to bring those back into the food service department, so we're exploring options. We're not entirely sure what that looks like yet, so we wanted to put the idea out there, and then future presentations maybe more detailed of how that can be accomplished. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. All right, athletic overview. These are the current budget lines that work with in athletics. The first one is salaries. Again, the second slide is a breakdown of the salaries that take place in athletics. Contractual is a $1,600 increase that I had moved from my supply line, and the reason being is for we have obviously the cross helmets, more cross helmets, so reconditioning obviously impacted my contractual line, and also success of our state tournaments. So I had to obviously eliminate as much budget transfers as I possibly can in my contractual line. So I was able to move from my supply line to my contractual line. Officials by contract, they go up every year, so there's a slight increase for all our officials for all our sports teams. Equipment stays the same. The BOCES line is also through BOCES is through our section, so it's basically the sectional dues that help run and support Section 4. So that's the BOCES line. Again, contractual line also, as I forget to state, that our contractual line is a big number there. Also, does our governor full-time athletic trainer, and all our state and federation dues are also included. breakdown for the salary position. Obviously, the first two, secretary and myself. 69 coaches, obviously by contractual, all this have to be increased. Also included, please remember that in the coaches, we've also added unified sports. Our pool supervisor, lifeguards, they keep the same. Time scores, again, our supervisors' time scores for all our home games for all our sports teams. So there's a slight increase there. Our stipends, it's our athletic manager, our chemical supervisor for the pool, and league sports study halls, all that included into our stipends for the stipend part. Any questions? Any questions for salary position? Budget considerations. Over the last few years, we're down to one boys and girls cross country coach. So asking for an assistant coach, additional support to help with supervision, participation, and then junior varsity lacrosse for boys and girls. We get additional support. Currently, we have unpaid coaches supporting our head JV coaches. So support for boys and girls varsity. Lacrosse being contact sport and complexity of the game, it's important to have two coaches to help instruct fundamentals and create strategy for the second coach. So that was consideration. Any questions with, I guess, any of the athletic presentation?
I just have I misunderstood. I was reading this about the unified sports, which you mentioned. I know last year was unified basketball. Then I saw something this year about unified bowling. And I wasn't sure if that was incremental to basketball or was it a replacement for. I'm just kind of going back to the mention the coaches line, and I was just wondering, is it multiple sports or just one?
Well, it was mainly basketball, but we are in the process. It's not guaranteed yet, but through the league and through the section, we're trying to formulate at least a unified basketball. We currently have an intramural program now just to try and see what the interest is with our kids. But we are talking about implementing a unified bowling team. Currently do not know what season that will be in. That could be in the fall season, but it just hasn't been totally in concrete. But it's being talked about.
In other words, we would probably carry that if it starts next year. We're trying to do the intramural right now to see what our interest is, because we have that opportunity to unified basketball. But basketball is already in place in the budget. We carried that last year, then we put it into the budget. Okay. We'd probably do the same thing.
Which is fine. The only reason I asked is I think those are fantastic sports to participate in, and I didn't know if that came to fruition and the coach wasn't included, was that going to be an issue? So it sounds like
we will be able to take care of that, because the hard part is we can't really put a cost to it yet, because we will also get some donations from Special Olympics during the first year of that potential program. In addition, we would have to write the MOA with the collective bargaining agreements for how we coach, which I think that one would be harder to be very similar to basketball. But the teachers unit has been very good about adding those as we come up with the program.
Thank you.
Last year there was a lot of talk about helmets in girls lacrosse. Did we go with that, or are we still studying that issue? Can we give an update on it?
Sure. We bought 75 helmets for the entire lacrosse program. All the girls starting this spring will be wearing modified to varsity, wearing new lacrosse helmets. So that all was implemented. Of course, we have some girls that aren't real comfortable with the helmets right now. Just take a while to break them in, and we have some complainers, but we are, so you know that we are making it mandatory that all our girls wear helmets. And I think so I just make myself clear with the amounts as far as the coaches. That's at step 1 at 4,000, and step 5 for step 5 goes for 5,000. So I understand there's between.
Just to add some clarity on the cross-country coach, because we had some discussions about it. Right now, the request was for an assistant, but we could also consider making a true boys program and a true girls program as well. So although we're saying assistant varsity, that one might change the varsity, but it's roughly around the same level.
Alright, so with the, few considerations we saw tonight, that funds are again up to just shy of $5.8 million. Again, not inclusive of fund balance, additional state aid, tax levy increase, reserves, you know.
If you can go back. We wanted to take a little time because obviously this is one of those short, quick budget meetings. But what happens is if you've noticed from past years, you're not seeing as many requests. That's because we've tried to vet some beforehand that we don't have a lot of additional resources this year. And as you saw, the tax levy, the 2% tax levy for Horsehead Central School, as of today, officially is 8.06%. And I know we've talked about it, and I've said before, we're not planning on asking you to go out at that level. But you need to start considering where we need to go out. Not right now, but I want you to start thinking about it. Last year we went out, I think, 3.98. And we're probably thinking you're going to need to be at that, and we will be able to put in, potentially, we think, a little stronger reserve position for us that we've been trying to get to. But there's going to be some options, most likely at the next meeting and then the April 4th meeting that we're going to have to talk to and really have some discussion to narrow in, because we will have a short turnaround from April 4th to get ready for the final presentation of the budget. I can tell you, by being in Albany this past weekend, it is a nightmare up there. Literally 1.5 to 2 hours just to get through security. That's how many people are in Albany right now. The good part is the legislature and the Senate came out yesterday. They plan on adding more to education, even though the governor is saying that there's a $2.3 billion shortage because of taxes and so forth. The legislature does not agree. And this is the first time in a long time that the governor and the legislature could not come to an agreement on revenue. So what happens now is it goes to the comptroller, and the comptroller sets the revenue forecast. This has been a little more favorable, not as horrible as the government, but that's pretty much where they're at right now, and they're starting to develop their one-house bill, which I believe have to be in by Tuesday of next week, and that's when the sort of down and dirty gets started with the negotiations for the budget. No longer is it 3 men in a room. Somebody's hopefully going to add a little common sense to that room. But the big part is they do expect to be done before April 1st. So probably at I think it's the 20th is our next meeting. That's the instructional and the health benefits. At that point, we'll probably have developed the full budget. Remember, right now, we've gone through almost everything except instructional. That will be the biggest add. But 5.8 million is already about 2 million, almost 3 million under where we've been in the past couple of years. So I want to thank the administrative team, everybody across the district, because I think we've addressed some things. Yeah, people would like more, but we're at a level where the downsizing of our student populace and everything has led us to get to this point, and we're trying to strengthen as much as we can. Financially, to move off of those reserves. This gap is probably up there because we still haven't fully taken care of the use of $2.9 to $3 million in reserves. So the more we can live to survive on narrowing that down over time, we will start getting to a realistic year after year budget that hopefully will not eventually rely on reserves, but rely on our stewardship going forward. So please be aware of that. Again, you can see all the tools. We have every single one of those tools, and right now, we feel that we can get there. But we're using our estimate of half of the Mattel. We don't know what it does to the rate, we would have to talk to that, but we'd be in line with last year's budget, which also had a 79% approval rating from the community. And that's largely because of the way we communicate. I want to thank Sue, but we're about to hit with a whole bunch of communication over the next 2 months, 2 mailers, one on the purchase of Hibbert Road and preparing people for the budget, make sure it's clearly communicated, and then our budget newsletter right behind that. So we just wanted to give you that and see if you have any questions or any thoughts on what you've seen on ads right now, because all those ads that we've shown you are not making it into this budget. We know we can't do everything. We've got to strategically see how we move forward. But we're showing you the ones that, as an administrative team, we've given the most amount of credence to. So any questions or thoughts on it? Can you go back to the ones that we've added so far? The repeater system, whether we do all of it or pieces of it and do it over a couple of years, that's one thing. The bus monitor, we've already brought it down from when we showed you 3 to 1. Because we added 1 last year. Yeah, we like 3. When you see the educational piece, that's why we're trying to balance it. The cleaner building mechanic, we want to try to give as much help, but we're in that construction phase right now. We know in our mind from our discussion, yeah, we'd like both, but we also know one is more preferable than the other. So as we're going through, you can start seeing, we usually have about $2.5 to $3 million in ads. I think at the end of our process this year, we only had about 800,000. Do we have more? Yes. But of the 800,000, we were trying to get it down to 300 to 400,000. And that would have put our budget gap around 5.8, 5.9. So we're trying to work around that, and then we'll have to make some decisions over the next couple of weeks. So anything we're missing or anything you think we haven't covered to this point that is not related to education or health benefits? In other words, any project out there that you've heard about or all of a sudden we should consider it sort of like those music instruments last year. We don't want to do that again. It worked out well, but we want to make sure we address it and know going in. So if you do have anything, please email me, and then we'll put it together with our team.
It's a little bit off topic. If you don't want to address it now, that's okay. But you mentioned the building purchase.
Yes.
Hibbert Road proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And is there, as we think about the potential tax increase associated with the budget, help me understand, would that have its own tax impact associated with it that we'd have to consider in addition?
Basically, because we are going to put that up as a proposition to the voters, it would be if the voters approve the purchase of the property, it takes it right out of the budget because we would be able to use reserves, which have no tax impact whatsoever because the money's already there, and we'd do that purchase, so there would be no tax impact. If the voters, say, defeated it, we would have to then, in next year's budget, allot for an ad that we'd have to carry our yearly lease. So the reason why we're not putting it in this year's budget is we feel we can carry that if we had to, and we're hopeful that people would see the wise investment if we're going to pay $450,000 to $500,000 and we bought the place for an extra $100,000. It's a wise investment because we get a tangible asset out of it that we might be able to use not just 5 years now, but 5 to 10 through the building project, which eventually means we're paying hardly anything, if not making money on the property, and then we can either turn around and use it or turn around and sell it and recoup the funds. So, and the big thing about that is we have to communicate. If we ever sell it down the road, the money that we paid for it and the money that we get back, say we bought it for $600,000, but we sold it for $1 million. That's hypothetical, but say we did. When we receive that $1 million back, we do not get it. You do not get it. It must go into a debt reduction reserve that's paid out over a 10-year period back to the community proportionally each of the 10 years. Because we used their money, because we used it, When we get something back for it, we have to send it back. In our budget, we have some of that with the sale of Broad Street. Automatically has to go back to the taxpayer. So in a way, we're using their money that we've been saving to do something financially feasible and I would say wise for a district so that we don't exhaust money out of our budget. And at the end, if we sell it, we give it back to the community. And we've got to make sure we communicate that so they understand. No guarantee we'll sell it, but if we did, they should know that comes back to them.
And I would love to see that kind of appreciation on the real estate around here. But I appreciate that. As a follow-up question, just to
Sure.
one of the boxes of the gap closing is use of reserve funds. If we have to use reserve funds to make that purchase, does it give you any concern about our ability to continue to use reserve funds, as a gap closing measure?
None whatsoever. We've been using it, but then replacing our reserves each year and growing our reserves. So doing it is actually going to be good on the comptroller's audit because they're seeing we're trying to keep things off the local taxes.
Okay, thank you.
The good part is also this property, by purchasing it, has no additional tax impact on the community because it's already a not-for-profit facility, and that means they don't pay taxes. So when we move in, if we purchase it, it affects no one because it's already not-for-profit and we would not be paying taxes on the property as well.
I think there's a lot of reasons why it makes good financial sense. I just think it says we go out and we try to educate the community on the budget and that it's a lot to take in, and I'm sure a lot of attention is being put into trying to make that clear.
That is one of the reasons why we are going to do a separate mailer on this and busing, and our capital reserves so they know why we're doing it. It's more to make sure that we're in the right financial position so that we can take care of the needs and not have to rely heavily on the tax base for our future capital projects as well.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you. Thank you all.
I think, any other, future meetings? Oh. Sorry.
I was just thinking that up so people can see it, I'm just jotting some thoughts.
So if there's no more questions on the budget, I'll open it up to any comments on the budget from audience members. No? Okay.